and Chief Executive IBA to join us on the dais, please. We also have our guest of honor, Shri Kararji, on the dais, and Secretary, Department of Financial Services, on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, I extend a hearty welcome to you all on the 75th Annual General Meeting of the Indian Banks Association. We now move on to the lighting of the traditional lamp. May I now request Shri A.K. Goel, Chairman IBA, to lead the Honorable Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Honorable Minister of State for Finance, and Secretary DFS for lighting of the lamp. I also request the other dignitaries on the dais to join them, please.
पद्माक्षी पद्मपत्रका शिवानुजा पुस्तकभृत् ज्ञानमुद्रा रमापरा कामरूपा महाविद्या महापातकनाशिनी
After the auspicious beginning, may I now request Shri A.K. Goel, Chairman IBA, to deliver his welcome address and give an overview of the activities of Indian Banks Association during the year. Over to you, Chairman, sir.
Thank you very much. Very good evening to all. Honorable Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Shri Bhagwat K. Karar ji, Secretary DFS, Shri Sanjay Malhotra ji, Deputy Chairman of the IBA, Shri Dinesh Khara ji, Shri Prabhakar ji, Shri Rakesh Sharma ji, and Honorary Secretary IBA, Shri Madhav Nair ji, and Chief Executive IBA, Shri Sunil Mehta ji, distinguished members of the banking fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. It is really my pleasure to welcome you all this annual event of the association. This is the 75th annual general meeting of the IBA, and hence it is a special one for all of us. On this occasion, we are delighted to have Honorable Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Shri Bhagwat Karar ji, and Secretary DFS, Shri Sanjay Malhotra ji, to grace our function. Despite your busy schedule, you are here to share this moment with us. We are indeed grateful to all of you for your kind gesture. I also take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome to all the guests and the members. As I mentioned earlier, we are celebrating the 75th AGM of the IBA. Incidentally, it is also coinciding with the 75th year of the India independence. Since IBA was formed before the India's independence, the history of the IBA is largely interlinked with several milestones of the Indian banking sector. It takes us through condition of the Indian banks during the partition day, to the bank nationalization, to computerization in the bank, to the financial sector reforms, and to the digital transformation that is happening in the Indian banking industries. IBA came into existence on the 26th September 1946 with the meager number of the 22 members with an idea to offer a platform to discuss issue of the common interest of the bankers over the last 75 years of the operation, that to working quite closely with the Indian banking sector. We have made a mark of ourselves. Our role has expanded noticeably over the last 7.5 decades, and today we have 239 members comprising of the public sector bank, private sector bank, cooperative bank, regional rural bank, payment bank, small finance bank, and the other associates members that are playing a key role in the overall financial ecosystem. Over the year, we have truly emerged as a platform for the collective thinking on almost all the issues of our member. I take this opportunity to present before you the highlights of the activity pursued by the IBA during the year 2021-22. Being the association, our activity are largely associated with the need of our constituents. As a natural extension of our role, we are engaging with our members on all the related aspects. The year saw the culmination of some of the initiatives taken by the association in the financial year 2021. The National Asset Reconstruction Company Limited, NARCL, and the Indian Debt Resolution Company Limited, IDRCS, has become operational. Secondly, Loan Market Association, in which IBA played a key role, is also operational now. It has developed a marketplace where the institution can buy and sell corporate loan with a level of the standardization which is expected to result in a better price discovery and aid the borrowers to reduce cost over the period of time. In the area of the social banking, many enablers have been put in the place. IBA designed a scheme for the overdraft facility for the women self-help group members having PMJDY accounts, credit guarantee fund trust for the micro and the small enterprises, has included the non-scheduled commercial bank as member lending institution of the CGT MSME. Wholesale trade activity has also been covered under the credit guarantee scheme, which was not earlier. Our members have to deal with the several legal issues during the course of their operation. We deliberate on the legal matters also and represent the concern of the bank to the appropriate authorities. We also coordinated with the market participants and the RBI in the area of the LIBOR transition, an initiative which started in 2019 and saw the peak of our engagement with the stakeholder in financial year 2022. As the season date approached, it is heartening to note that the banking industry managed the challenges arising out of the transition without any disruption. In the area of the asset management, we have facilitated guidance and the coordinate for the resolution of the stressed assets. Frequent interaction with the member with the insolvency and the bankruptcy code of the India have been facilitated, and various suggestions for improvement in the insolvency and the bankruptcy code have been forwarded to IBBI for consideration. A model code for the conduct of the COC have been designed, and the MOU has been entered with the IBBI to facilitate capacity building in the IBC ecosystem. We have also facilitated in carving out a roadmap for identification of the potential stress account to NARCL. Special attention is thus provided for resolution of the stress borrower account in the system. The technology and the payment system are another focused area of the IBA to celebrate the 75th year of the India's independence. Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Union Budget 2022-23 announced the setting of 75 digital banking units in 75 districts with an objective to ensure benefit of the digital banking reach every nook and corner of the country. IBA is very much involved in this initiative with a view to ensure seamless implementation by our members. Enhanced assets and the ease excellence is another project where IBA engaged with public sector bank right from the inception. ESR, the launching of the EASE 4 and award event in the EASE 3 was also organized by IBA. We have also convened several EASE knowledge series for the benefit of public sector bank. EASE Next is also launched in this financial year. Encouraged with the success of the EASE, the government is adopting the same model in the case of the RRBs. IBA will be playing key role in this project also. RBI issued the guidelines for the special INR Vostro account to encourage trade denomination in the rupees. We are actively engaged with the market player to facilitate coordination and guidance. I am happy to mention that IBA has now carved for itself an important space in the financial ecosystem for overall progress of the economy. I take this opportunity to appreciate the relentless effort of the IBA team for engaging in several activities for the benefit of the banking industries. Under the able leadership of Shri Sunil Mehta, Chief Executive IBA, we received encouragement from our members, regulators and the governments for all our initiatives which helped us to perform our role quite well and made us a platform to address the concern of the banking industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your address and for elaborating the activities of IBA. May I now request Shri Sanjay Malhotra ji, Secretary, Department of Financial Services, to please address the members.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Honorable Minister of State, Mr. Bhagwat Kararji, Dinesh Kharaji, the chairperson of IBA, the CEO of IBA on the dais, and the leading lights of the banking industry over here. First of all, a very big thank you to all of you for giving me this opportunity to be present over here in IBA. Also, congratulations to IBA for completing 75 years. I mean, any institution which is able to thrive and maintain its existence over a period of 75 years itself says a lot about the value that it must be bringing to the whole industry. We in the department and the government, we value this relationship with IBA. IBA has been in the forefront of various activities, whether it is the ECLGS or the EASE program, or now that we are talking about, as the Honorable Minister had wanted us to do, the consumer service ratings of all the banks, including the public and the private sector banks. We look forward to interacting with you. It is our endeavor always to meet with you, and all the letters that come to us, we strive to immediately take heed to them and take them forward. Well, I have only 3 points here to make. The banking industry as of today is placed quite comfortably. Of course, the banking industry played a very important role in the COVID and post-COVID in the recovery of the economy. The banking industry now as a whole, whether it is from capital adequacy point of view, CRAR more than 16%, whether it is in terms of the provisioning and the asset quality with GNP is less than 6% and NNPA only about 2%. We are all very comfortably placed. But at the same time, we need to keep going forward. We need to keep the momentum. Yes, India has now become the 5th largest economy, but we believe that this is only the beginning. Everyone is talking about it. that's not only this decade, but the next century, in fact, for India. And the banking industry will obviously have to do its job and support the economy and continue the good work that it has been doing. There are good early signs post-COVID. The credit growth has increased, and we see that the growth is about 15% per annum, and that will certainly be required as we go forward in this era of the Indian era, or as has been said, that this belongs to India. So the other thing I wanted to also, while we concentrate, on credit growth, the other thing is that we have to take along all segments. We have noticed that over the years, the growth to the credit to the industries has decreased. Of course, partly it is because of the shift of the credit from the banking to the bond markets. Also, the structural shift with services increasing. But I noted that in the last decade, it's only about the share of the industries has decreased only by 1%, whereas the share of the banks in the credit has decreased from 42% to 26% in the last 10 years. So it is very huge, 16%. We need to take back that space. We need to support this because of the huge multiplier effect that investments and credit to the industries has on the economy. Similarly, it is also noted that while there are good signs of growth of credit to MSMEs, MSMEs are the growth engine of the country. They provide huge employment opportunities to the people of our country. And this is again an area where we all need to certainly concentrate. While we do concentrate on retail loans where the maximum growth is, my point is with respect to the relative importance being given to the retail loans. While that continues, the focus to industrial sector, services sector, and the MSME sector is very important. The MSMEs contribute about 1/3 to our economy, while their share is only 1/6, about 16-17% is the share. So we have put in place, and this was discussed even in FSDC, very importantly, the account aggregator framework. I'm happy that most of the major private sector banks, all the major private sector banks, in fact, and all the public sector banks are now onboarded onto the account aggregator framework. Now it's the turn of the regional rural banks. There are quite a few, I'm told, who are members of this association. I would urge you all to become members of this account aggregator framework, both as FIPs and FIUs, because this is going to be the way forward. And this is really going to make available information to you at the click of a button, not only information related to the banks. We are getting the insurance companies, few of them have already joined, the pension sector, and then on the security side, the shares and the mutual funds. Not only financial information, but also financial information, which is coming from other sources like GST, income tax, utilities. And so everything, this information asymmetry, which was there because of this account aggregator, to a great extent will be reduced, if not eliminated. So I urge you all to take part in this and contribute in the growth of the country by lending, especially to the industries and the MSME sector. Another point that I wish to make here is, the second point that I wish to make here is that while the private sector banks have contributed tremendously, now their share in total credit is almost about 37%, more than 40% now. But we find that their contribution in some of the financial inclusion schemes in the country The Jan Dhan accounts, only 3%. Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, we find, the contribution is only 4%. Atal Pension Yojana, only 7%. KCC again, 7%. SUPI 10%. So while you have, I understand that most of your presence is in urban areas, but this is the time that the rural economy is also growing. And even the public sector banks, RRBs, cooperatives, which have been playing a major role in financial inclusion, they have gained, from this financial inclusion, because one finds that even in Jan Dhan accounts today, it's not, a zero kind of a balance. The balance is about 4,000 rupees on an average, even in these Jan Dhan accounts. And so it helps you in getting access to cheap CASA deposits. And similarly, in the other schemes, there are good fees which are there for you to increase your non-interest income. And so I would urge all the banks, especially private sector banks, to also focus, on the financial inclusion theme, financial inclusion schemes of the government. The last point I wish to make over here is, and the Honorable Finance Minister has been stressing this, and that is, on consumer service. So all of us need to pay adequate attention to consumer service. As I mentioned earlier, we plan to do a survey of and kind of rate benchmark, the various banks on that. Along with this, is going to be important because as the needs of the consumers are also changing, they are not looking only, at banking services. They are looking at much more than, banking services at the click of a button. And so we have to all embrace technology. And this is true, not only for the bigger banks, for the private and the public sector banks, but also at the same time, for the NBFCs, for the RRBs and the cooperative banks. There is, of course, the government has come up with a program for computerizing the packs, and similarly we are going to assist the RRBs. But it's important for all of us to realize that if we do not embrace technology, then we are going to lose out. We may even perish. So with these words, once again, thank you very much for this invitation to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your address. I now invite our guest of honor, Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Shri Kararji, to please address the members.
On the occasion of 75th Annual General Body Meeting of IBA, the chief guest of today's function, Honorable Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji Madam, Secretary of DFS, Sri Sanjay ji Malhotra, IBA Chairman, Sri A.K. Goel ji, Deputy Chairman, Sri Dinesh Kharaji, Mr. Prabhakar, Sri Rakesh Sharma ji, Sri Madhav Nair ji, Honorary Secretary and Chief Executive Sri Sunil Mehta ji, all the office bearers and members. First of all, I congratulate and give my best wishes to all office bearers and all members on the occasion of 75th Annual General Body Meeting. I am delighted to be part of this meeting, and this is a very important occasion, I think, because we have celebrated 75th Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and today also we are taking the 75th Annual General Body Meeting. IBA is one of the major associations which brings together the entire banking industry, promoting cooperation in a framework of competition. This has been a great opportunity to interact with the bankers and understand the state of affairs of the sector. The world is going through an uncertain and challenging time. Recent geopolitical events in the world have led to a surge in energy and food prices, leading to worldwide inflation, bringing the economic growth to a halt. India too has faced the consequences as any changes in the world directly affects us. Despite this, we can be satisfied with the past year's financial growth, as we saw a GDP growth is 8.7% in the financial year 2022. The banking sector, which is extremely important for the economy, has played a major role in rebuilding our economic sector. The banking industry that was once under a lot stress before 2014, is holding our economy together today. Our government, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji, brought in many developments such as consolidations, change in credit cycle, increase in digitalization, regulatory changes like IBC, PCA, and discontinuation of overgreening of bad loans has given a push to the industry. As a result, financial year 2022, all 12 public sector banks have turned profitable. The scheduled commercial banks have been a credit growth of 9.6% and deposit growth of 8.9% in the financial year 21. The recent asset quality of scheduled commercial banks has improved, where the gross NPA has declined from 7.4% in 2021 to 5.9% in 2022. Net NPA has declined from 2.4% in 2021 to 1.7% in 2022. The banks have increased lending, especially in MSME sector and agriculture sectors. New schemes such as credit at click and dial a loan has helped to increase the digital lending with more coverage. I also want to take this opportunity to applaud the banks on their role in penetration of government-sponsored schemes. Our government is striving to enhance digital payments and digitalization in process. Prime Minister Swanidhi schemes is a huge step taken by the government to provide subsidized short-term loans to vendors. Main be digital, 3 minutes, emphasis on loan. Banks are assisting the government's efforts in issuing QR code and UPI also. Lastly, I will say that our aim is to give bankers to unbankers, secure to unsecures, and funding to unfundings. Lastly, I will say, under the guidance of Honorable PM, our Finance Minister, Madam, and all of you, the economy is increased, and we are the 5th largest economy, having largest economy. I hope this will continue, and we'll do the best. Thank you.
We sincerely thank you, sir, for your message and insights to the bankers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute honor to invite the chief guest, the Honorable Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, to kindly address the audience.
I think we'll need it. Anyway. Good evening to all the office bearers of the IBA, my colleague, Dr. Karad, And also, I'm going in the probably wrong order, but Secretary, Department of Financial Services, and also all the executives of banks who have come here, being members of the IBA. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be with you once again. It's always been a very meaningful interaction when I come for the IBA meets. I know the 75th meeting that you're holding today of the annual general meeting coincides with India celebrating 75th anniversary post-independence. I've observed this even earlier once, that the IBA's trajectory is very much aligned with Free India's trajectory. And as a result, most often, either by default or by the choice of the IBA, you end up serving the nation, keeping yourself aligned with national priorities. And therefore, there's always been a synchronization of banking functions and also government policy. So there's enough and more reasons to recollect how that path has helped India move up and grow, particularly in the last 10 years, I would think, in spite of all the challenges that you have faced. Because of various reasons, I'm not going to have to give a political explanation for it, but I'm glad today we are meeting at a time when most of you all have come out of the difficulties that you were facing, and as a result today you are able to stand up on your own and be counted for your strengths over the decades. After all, due to extensive networking, spreading of your wings, diligent hard work of your members and of your staff at all levels, banks in India have grown to the sizes that they have grown today. But even with all that said, and I appreciate particularly the work that was done during the pandemic, I mentioned it in my last meeting, I wouldn't hesitate to repeat here and now again, that participation with a sense of dedication at all levels in each and every one of the banks has become, I would think, a golden certificate given by the people because of the dedication with which at every level, banking, staff, officers and everybody, in spite of the challenges of the COVID pandemic, were at the service of the nation. You went to the villages, you delivered on, to the customers who couldn't come to the branches and so on. And some of your staff had also got, and I always have a word of prayer for all of them who lost the breadwinning member of the family who was a member of the IBA as well, in the sense working in a bank. So whenever I meet now post the pandemic, I have a sense of gratitude towards banks in India because you not only worked through the pandemic, but also made sure the amalgamation processes were so undertaken without much of a friction. Banks were merged because we wanted larger, more optimal and efficient banks. All those exercises were also undertaken during the pandemic. So you have gone through a test of the fire, if I can use that word, took up many challenges, amalgamation, COVID pandemic, keeping your staff together, and post that also the demand which the government were giving forward guidance saying we need more credit in the market, go reach out to the customers, also go to the far-flung areas of the country. You did it all. Today the economy is looking up, and you also are seeing figures which are coming out. You are clearly seeing the health of the bank, which you yourself are reporting. I don't need to re-report to you. The restoration of the health of banks has been so recognized. People are saying today Indian banks are up and healthy and they are at their best. So all this could not have been accomplished but for the diligence with which all of you all have worked, and my word of appreciation in this meeting of the 75th Annual General Meeting. There are several data that I can share with you. I can also say banks have reached this much, NPAs have come down by so much, liquidity is spread so much. I'm not getting into that discussion because I'm sure all of you all have been talking about it, reporting about it, writing about it, and the Secretary DFS, who should actually be keeping an account of it, is fully seized of it. So I'm not going to be getting into that. But what I need to talk to you at this stage, I think, particularly when we are celebrating India's 75th Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and also where the Prime Minister is very clear that for the next 25 years, which he constantly refers to as the Amrit Kal, Amrit Kal has taken off at a very, very positive note. If at this stage, when we are planning for the next 25 years, India has reached the 5th rank in the world from 11th rank that we were in 10 years ago, just the auspicious beginning that we've been waiting. And that auspicious beginning has already arrived. We are talking of an economy which is the 5th largest, and having moved to the 5th position within a matter of 10 years, we have so much and more to do. So the Amrit Kal and the banking industry to serve the Amrit Kal is going to have to occupy all our minds. It is for us to see how best we can lift ourselves to meet with the aspirations of a growing India. If from the Red Fort, Prime Minister says by 2047, India can be, should be, and we wish to be the developed country that we so deserve to be in, I think the biggest role to contribute in this path, and for this path, for us to reach it by that time which all of us hope to be, it is the banking sector which has to make a big contribution. And there's no denying that banks are the biggest catalysts. You are the ones who are going to facilitate businesses to run, agriculture to be comfortably placed, small businesses to be given adequate capital, understanding the nature of requirement of capital by the MSMEs, corporate sector to be supported, but supported with your prudential decisions in particular place. Good commercial decisions to be taken by the merit of the matter rather than by anything else. Professionalize your decision-making boards. There's no way in which banks can any longer, and I understand, I'm saying this even as you've already understood it. There's no way banks can any longer run with a crony kind of a background. This government, particularly under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has ensured there are no instructions given to the banks. There are no direction about fund him, not fund so-and-so is not given at all. You have recognized that, and we have also appreciated that professionalism is what you're all moving towards. And we need to take that at a far faster pace. If for 25 years, especially when India has to grow at that kind of a speed, it is you, the catalyst, who will have to be empowered. And I'm sure the DFS is conscious of that aspect of what we need to do to let the banks be. Ask them to carry on with their functions as they should. And engage professional services, professionals who can come and run it in a far more purely banking perspective in mind. So with all that in mind, when we are moving towards greater professionalism, greater independence, greater standing of the Indian banks, which is already proven, I would thank the former Secretary DFS and now also the current Secretary DFS, who actually had gone through quite a difficult phase with me in particular, where I kept saying, no, I'm not giving any more capital to the banks, let them go to the market, raise funds on their own because they are fine enough in their health. It looked as if I had been very difficult. I like to believe so. I'm sure you still think that I was difficult. But it helped. Haven't you all realized that you went to the market and you could raise resources for yourself. You don't need the government to, have that approach of my bap, please give me. You've proven yourself. And to add to your strength, monies which were locked up in accounts which were declared fraudulent. The law enforcing agencies are making sure that they give the money back to the bank. The assets have been put on auction, monies have come, and there are times I have called Dinesh Karaji to say, please go ahead, put the share out and get the money, put it back into your account. Don't wait for a golden day. This money has come, that which was almost given up, saying we may or may not even get it. Those monies have come. We shall pursue that every bit. No fraudulent account will be left without being taken to the court. We shall get that money back to you. Because you are the custodian of those monies. And fraudsters have no place in this country, and banks shall not suffer for the monies which have been taken away by the fraudsters. And that I can say with confidence because in the last few years we've done it. I'm not talking out of the blue. So if that is the kind of support with which we want to work with the banks, both public sector, private sector on a different scope, I'd certainly love to see banks now plan for the Amrit Kal. We're in it already, we should have planned earlier, but never mind, now is the time. 5th in ranking economy, your money is coming back, you on your own have built your health up in such a way that you're able to go to the markets to raise resources, you've got the opportunity now to get more professionals into your management, then what best time to think about what you want to do the next 25 years? In the next 25 years, I would think you will have to have strategies to meet up to the aspirations of the younger population. They shall be about 60% of the total population by the year 2030, youth of India. You will have to make your portfolios such attractive ones that even the young would think there's so much for me in the bank. You'll have to articulate it in such a fashion. I'm not saying that you will have diametrically different portfolios. After all, banking has its own prudential sense. But are you making yourself accessible to the youth of this country? Today, women are coming out in very many different ways and doing businesses. Are you communicating with them? Are you offering products for them? So the next 25 years, I've just indicated to you 2 things, but there could be very many more. So I would like the IBA to take the initiative to plan for the next 25 years as to how you're going to be the most effective catalyst, which you have proven during the pandemic. And therefore you have it in you to be able to plan for the next 25 years. What are the areas in which you would want to expand? Not just a brick and mortar. How digitized are you? Is digital, how do I say this? Are you digital savvy? Is your bank digital savvy? Are your staff digital savvy? I don't want to use the word technology. It is technology. But are you comfortable in being a digital institution? How much of training goes in for this? Now, each of us have created our own empires, maybe. Each of us have our own system, digital system, but that doesn't talk with the next one. After all of you are serving this one country, either within the land or outside. Do your systems talk to each other? Or a customer, for instance, who has an account in A bank, for some reason has to function or do some business with B bank, has to recreate it all. And it will be such a missed opportunity if we are sitting and thinking that I've created my own, I am happy, whereas the fellow who deals with you is the one who feels how many walls are there between banks. So I would think the IBA should plan to make sure all systems in all banks, which is private or public, for the purposes of the customer. I'm not asking you to open up the whole arena. For the purposes of the customer, should make systems talk to each other. Now, in a way, account aggregator business has shown us that with the consent of the customer, you are able to provide services and there are no digital encroachment into his privacy. So why is it that we wouldn't be able to do it for other things in the bank? So that is one of the things I would think for the Amrit Kal, you should be a lot more digital savvy. Also the opportunity that technology gives you over and above having these systems which speak to each other. Your efficiencies, detecting fraud, tracking wrong money going into wrong causes, which is, I think, based on the FATF, is a mandatory thing that all of us follow, ministry, banks. Detecting unusual transactions, alerting yourself, alerting the government. Use of Web3, artificial intelligence, data analysis, deep dive into data. All these will have to have some thought processes and some coordination through the IBA, not so much each bank for itself. So use of the Web3, use of artificial intelligence, I would think will be an immediate priority I expect of the banks. Because otherwise, we are all still probably at some level of digital use, but not really as much as to detect fraud, as to have an early warning sign, put in certain kind of embedded matters into it so that you are able to get yourself alerted when something goes wrong. So if I'm talking so much about cyber, so much about digital infusion into your banking functioning, the natural corollary would be cyber protection. Are you all geared to have adequate firewalls? Are you all covering yourself enough so that there is no major hacking or a black swan event which leads to a system getting agitated? So ensure that you have enough cyber protection and periodic drills to see that there are no loopholes which you have left without attending to. So you need to have the CertFin people engaged quite often and ensure that they are giving you all the assistance to keep yourself cyber protected. I'll come to something which bothers me in the parliament quite a lot. I think it's important, I'm talking about the public sector banks, but to an extent even the private sector probably will have issues about it. When you have staff in regions who do not talk the local language, when you have at the customer end, at the branch level, staff who don't talk the regional language and who are patriotic enough to say, hey, you don't talk Hindi? No way, you're no Indian. And I'm quoting this because I'm probably not putting it into an inverted comma situation, but it has actually happened. I think it doesn't do any good for business. We cannot afford to have staff who don't speak local language and who demand from citizens that they speak in a particular language. Unless they do it, they're not even Indians, need not be your approach. You're there for doing business. You're not there to cultivate certain value system into the citizen, except that when it comes to the banking, of course, he has to be prompt in paying your interest. He'll have to promptly service your loans. He'll have to deal with you in such a way that he frankly comes and tells you what's his security worth and all that. But other than that, if you are there sitting and saying, hey, I can't understand you, will you go away? You're not there for it. I honestly, at this juncture, tell you, please review the kind of people who are getting posted in branch levels. If you have a problem about mixing and matching staff who can speak a local language, and you have somebody in that region who can't speak, keep him at the back door, but he shouldn't be dealing with the customers then. I hope we don't create newer problems for ourselves, and therefore I've had this discussion with you all earlier. Your recruitments will now have to have a lot more sensible ways of recruiting people. If you need X number of people in a particular region, make sure you recruit X plus some more so that that region will require that many number of people who can speak that language. I underline the importance of this because of the diversity of this country. And banking sector also is one area in which constantly there are newer people coming in, employment is happening, and if employment and recruitments are happening, it is possible for you to show how inclusivity can be brought in. Inclusivity just doesn't stop with you lending loans to everybody and therefore you are inclusive. Show it in your staff. Show it in the way in which your staff speak to the customers. Or else I can't see what's the difference. What is the difficulty in learning a language? I mean, I'm from the south. Whatever I do try to learn a bit of Hindi, however poor it may be in my delivery, I learn it. As long as my karma buddhi is here, I have to learn the language of that area. And I can't understand how IBA can entertain officers who get posted in non-Hindi areas who don't speak that language. What is wrong in acquiring a language? You are after all serving those customers. If you don't get a person from that area and you post somebody, make sure that that somebody speaks that area's language. He can't just arrogate to himself that if the customer doesn't understand his language, be damned with him. I speak in strong words on this because that's the nature of banking. You are dealing with people, you may as well respect them and their language. I'd also draw the attention of all the members of the IBA that some parts of the country, even today, do not have adequate coverage of banks. And when I say banks, I'm not insisting on brick and mortar. I know that exercise is already over. You have arrived at a certain number of areas where there are no brick and mortar branches, which you may want to provide, and you've taken a call on that. I'm not interfering in that. But if there is a way in which you can provide ATMs, or even better, where you can afford to have more business correspondents. And in that, I would think I've come across quite a number of business correspondents who are women who are doing brilliantly well. I would like a positive and affirmative bias here. The more business correspondents are women, the better for your business. Show your positive prejudice in this. Get more business correspondents, get more women business correspondents. And the regions which have not had enough coverage of banks and where it is possible to bring in digital technology, particularly the Northeast, I was glad to see, and I'm naming the bank, it's not to say others are not doing it, I was glad to see Axis. I was glad to see some public sector banks also making quite a few inroads in the Northeastern area. Northeast has a particular difficulty of access, physical access. So if you went by your usual 5-kilometer radius touch point, or if you went by a certain population size for a branch, Northeast will not get one branch. Or the 5-kilometer touch radius test that you will do will also not be effective. So you may have to look at Northeast with a bit of a special treatment because they need the banks there. It is all full of bustling activity, economic activity. We need financial inclusion for that area as well. So largely in this meeting, with a little expectation from the banking area, I request that You look at strategies for the next 25 years. You look at digital approach immediately. You look at systems which talk to one another also. You also look at newer ways of providing portfolios for younger population. Don't miss out that the 25 years will be done only with your support. The more old-fashioned we sit around, not undermining the prudential norms intact. If you sit thinking the business will come to you, no, business will not come to you. People are very good nowadays through their phones accessing that particular bank or that particular institution which is going to be accessible to you. As you did earlier, when I say earlier, about 30, 40 years ago, when door-to-door campaigning for accounts, I do, as a child, I had few people in my house who were all in the banking area. The kind of deposit mobilization, some word like that was used. You went door-to-door to do deposit mobilization. Now you don't need to do that. If you're able to keep yourself available through all the digital phone app-based systems, you're available for everybody. So those kind of out-of-the-box thinking, which are in line with today's India's expectations, are things which you need to plan. Keep your norms intact, but think of ways in which you can reach out. The role of private sector banks is equally important. I would want them to keep their dynamism up. There are certain areas in which both the private and the public sector banks will have to look at, and that is the insurance coverage under the government schemes. Jan Dhan accounts are there, but Atal Bima Yojana, Suraksha Bima Yojana, we still need all of you all to participate. Maximum saturation has to be reached in all of them. I know it is a public sector bank which largely carry forward the government's schemes and so on, whether it is Mudra, but I know other private banks are also doing it. But one last call that I'd like to put before the IBA today, and for those of you who are going to wear the thinking hat on behalf of your banks, regional rural banks will have to have some attention given. I think once earlier when we met, I had voiced it. Rural banks need support for digitization. They need digital technology. They need to be upgraded in terms of the systems that they have. They need a lot more assistance in terms of getting all accounts into digital platforms. Account aggregators will also have to go to them. So some more attention by the sponsoring banks for the regional rural banks would help. There's so much and more happening because of the agricultural infrastructure fund that government has created. We need that to be better reached out through the RRBs. So ensure that the RRBs get the support of the sponsor banks, and slowly work might even expand to strengthen the cooperatives, but that's a bit later. But for now, I would want you to immediately attend to the RRBs as well. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Once again, I appreciate the service done during pandemic. I also appreciate the efforts which are being put through during post-pandemic revival-based efforts, but it's not all over yet. This year, particularly this year, during the festival, immediately after the festival, there will be a lot of interest. There is indication that people are willing to spend money, people are willing to travel, people are wanting to go to different destinations, businesses are wanting to invest additionally, capacities to be expanded. All these are being talked about. If those will have to materialize, it is through you. You will have to keep yourself available and ready for ensuring that the requirements, credit requirements, are met and met in time without much of a stress on diligence and compliance. You should facilitate the customer to ensure that he thinks, oh, this bank is fairly, easy, they're comfortable with me, I'm willing to do the whatever compliances, so it's all happening. that energy of positivity should go out. There was a time when you were very strong and very powerful in stating the concerns that you had, and that I remember in 2019. Whether it is because of the stress the staff had in their minds, whether they're going to be pursued by the CBI, whether CVC is going to come after them, whether the decisions are going to be questioned by the CAG and so on. Those days are gone. You're on a better platform now. You're on a better position now. If that could be effectively communicated to the authorities, to the government, saying we're all scared, we're frozen, we don't want to take a decision. You were very effective in that, weren't you? Weren't you very effective in that? They have been addressed now. Equally now, I want you to be effective in saying we are ready for good business. We are ready now to deal with customers. Please come. We want to serve you. Give us a call. We are willing to come and talk business with you. You be proactive. You're very effective when you want to convey a thought. I would want you to convey the thought to the customers that you are ready for them and you will meet them wherever they want and do business with them. Of course, you'll be conscious of keeping your own norms intact. Nobody's going to undermine that. So, good wishes. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Next 25 years is in your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your invaluable guidance, your encouraging words of appreciation, and for sparing your valuable time for the benefit of our distinguished audience. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have the unveiling of the prestigious coffee table book. This memorable document will take you down memory lane depicting the association's activities for the past 76 years. I request the Honorable Chief Guest to kindly unveil the coffee table book. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now call upon Shri Sunil Mehta, Chief Executive IBA, to propose the vote of thanks.
At the outset, I would like to thank our Honorable Finance Minister, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman ji, for not only sparing her valuable time, despite her busy schedule, for this AGM, but also acknowledging and encouraging the bankers in the role and the contribution made by them during the pandemic and as well as into the post-pandemic area for revival of the economy. Thank you, Madam. Today, the Indian banking system, especially the public sector bank, got immensely benefited with a visionary leadership by providing them capital and time, supporting them in cleaning of their books, and now they are poised for growth because the Indian banking system is now having adequate capital adequacy which can support your vision for next 25 years and can definitely go in hand with the government in taking the initiative for economic development so that the country can be the number one economy of the world 25 years from now. We, members of IBA, are committed to live your vision and will do our best that we do not stay short of any expectation while performing our duties in meeting the aspirational growth and economic growth of our country in next 25 years. We assure you, Madam. I'm equally thankful to our Minister of State for Finance, Sri Bhagwat Karaji, for sparing his valuable time and sharing his words of wisdom with all of us for keeping in pace with the economic development of the country. You are all aware, the Secretary DFS, Sri Sanjay Malhotra ji, is a driving force for the Ease Next. Yes, he said you all have a general program, and then Ease Next is we need bank specific and taking to the next level. I'm really thankful to him for providing us all the support and guidance from the government in all the matters, including the recent matter of 194 AR, where the government gave the support and withdrawn even the budgetary announcement for taxation of the OTS settlement. And we are getting the consistent guidance as a mentoring for the issues which are of national interest. Thank you, sir, for your presence and sharing your words of wisdom. I must thank the regulator, RBI, the Governor RBI, Shri Shaktikant Das ji, and the DGs and the team, who have been a very helping hand and supportive in our initiatives for bringing various reforms into the existing system and taking our advices and taking our consultation on board to meeting out the requirements of the industry. They have played a very positive and proactive role, and we must acknowledge that this is the best time when we have a very supportive government and a supportive regulator, and this is the best time for us to grow and contribute our might into the growth of the economy. This program would not have been possible without the participation of member banks. I'm thankful to each one of you for supporting the initiatives of the IBA in every walk of life, wherever may it be, staff during pandemic time, may it be issues of national interest, may it be issues of industry interest. Your unflinching and support is a great motivator for the team at IBA, and I must thank all my members for this support. I must thank the media present here. The media has been supporting the initiatives of the banking sector in a very positive and constructive way and giving us a due recognition in the system for the contribution made by the banking sector into the economy. Thank you for your presence and the support to us. Last but not the least, my team at IBA. They have made it happen that IBA is now in the forefront of taking major decisions, forefront of giving a consultative and a collaborative role, and the collaboration among banking system is the best as of today. I thank them for their contribution in organizing the event today, and my thanks to the entire management committee and the headed by our chairman, Mr. Atul Goyal, for providing us a facilitating platform to perform our duties. Thank you all for your presence today.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, our AGM function stands concluded. I thank all of you for your participation and cooperation in the smooth conduct of today's program. The EASE event for public sector banks will commence at the same place in about 15 to 20 minutes from now. In 10 minutes from now, there's a correction. We now request our Chief Executive to kindly escort our Chief Guest of Honor and Secretary DFS for high tea. Managing Committee members are requested to proceed for high tea at the Assembly Hall. Towards my right, our team will be guiding you. Chief Executives, MDs and CEOs of member banks and other dignitaries to join us at the Forum Capitol Hall. Our team will guide you, please. Thank you once again and have a lovely evening all.